history. But sometimes the shortest have the greatest meaning. So I want you to think about what are the different gifts we're talking about. Comes to us from Proverbs chapter 18, verse 16. A gift opens doors. It gives access to the great.
Yes, often short is good. Right, Marty? Sorry. This reading, actually Jesus says, love your enemies. The reading, the gospel reading this morning, we ask you to please rise. It comes from Luke chapter 6, verses 27 through 38. Jesus, in his own words, but I say to you that listen, love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who abuse you. If anyone strikes you on the cheek, offer the other also. And from anyone who takes away your coat, do not withhold even your shirt. Give to everyone who begs from you. And if anyone takes away your goods, do not ask for them again. Do to others as you would have them do unto you. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. If you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners do the same. If you lend to those from whom you hope to receive, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners to receive as much again. But love your enemies and do good, and lend expecting nothing in return. Your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High, for he is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked. Be merciful just as your Father is merciful. Do not judge, and you will not be judged. Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put into your lap. For the measure you give will be measured you get back. This is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. Please be seated. Yes, I can. But did you hear the gospel text today? Jesus doesn't just give us a suggestion, it's a command. Love your enemies. Turn the other cheek. And the worst one, do not judge nor condemn anyone. Oh, good one. You're right. That's why the song this morning, Yes, I Can. Because Jesus believes that we can, and we need to believe the same thing. Through his own words, he believes that we can. Let's believe it. There was a preacher one Sunday morning back in Tennessee that gave a sermon about forgiving your enemies. Towards the end of the service, he asked the congregation, how many of you have forgiven your enemies? About half of the congregation raised their hand. Well, he got a little frustrated. It was getting a little bit past lunchtime, 12 noon, and he knew they wanted to go. That would never happen here. And so he asked again, how many of you have forgiven your enemies? Only about 80% held their hand up. Well, he saw Mrs. Jones sitting in the front. She had held her hand up. And he said, ma'am, could you explain to the rest how you have done that? And she said, it's really easy. I'm 93 years old and all my enemies are dead. I don't think that's what Jesus was talking about. That was. But let's look back at the scripture, because this was a twist. This is a change. This is very difficult back then and even now. Very difficult. But did God change? Because in the Old Testament we're told an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, and all these rules and commandments back then. But Jesus brought something new. But did God change? But the scriptures tell us that God doesn't. In James chapter 1, verse 17, shares with us, every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from God of lights, with whom there is never no variation or shadow due to change. In the Numbers we're told God is not humankind, but he should lie, or a son of man, that he should change his mind. God will not do that. In Isaiah, we hear the grass withers, the flower fades, but the word of God will stand forever. But here Jesus tells us the opposite. No longer an eye for an eye, reciprocity, but to turn the other cheek. The opposite of the God we know in the Old Testament, where we hear and we perceive a vengeful God, a God who kills people. Ask Lot about his wife. Destroys cities who don't follow his command. But is now a loving, living God. The God of presence through Jesus. So has God changed? Or this morning I ask, or have we changed? Has our interpretation of this sacred text changed? Do we see things in a different light? Did Jesus come to remind us and help us? The question is, how come we have grown in some ways? We have. In the scriptures it talks about masters and slaves, and now in our country slavery is illegal. Human trafficking happens. But it hasn't happened in all ways. What blocks our paths as Christian people, as good people, that holds us back from this text, this invitation from Jesus today? My favorite part of the text, when I go back and read it, is when Jesus says, listen. Listen, he says. Can you find it? But I say to you that listen. I say to you that listen. How can we listen if we've already made our mind up? Laws have changed. Like we said, slavery's abolished. Women now have the right to vote. I can't believe that never was that way. Today, can you even imagine that idea? That's following the Old Testament when women were possessions and owned by the men and families and all this. The women can vote now. Women are equals. And in many instances, well, I won't go there. More wise than men, let me say. But look at the history of the United Church of Christ, our denomination. Years ago, for a mainstream Christian denomination of 5,600 churches that had come together to be one, the first woman was ordained mainstream Christian denomination. First African American in a mainstream Christian denomination. It is a church of first. But we're still listening. Still have a long way to go. But when we listen, but we're so sure that God, why did God change his mind? But Jesus said he did. I remember growing up and attending church as a teen and listening to what I was being told by the people who were preaching. It's dangerous. That's what it is. Led me to believe, because my trust was in that person, not in God. But to believe for 20 years that God hated me, that I walked around as an abomination. I could go into any store or have friends and they don't know about my abomination, but God does. And I turn my back on God. Painful. But I listened to the people in whom I trusted. Now I listen to one thing, the wisdom here. I'm grateful for that. Yesterday, this is Pride Weekend in Fort Lauderdale. As many of you know, it's beach parties and parades. I am so grateful. We've always, well, in the last 20 years, had parades in the big community known as Walton Manors. But now we have a mayor who is diverse and listens to the word. Fort Lauderdale had their first parade, gay pride parade. People were talking, oh, I don't know if people will come. It's the first year, it won't be successful, all these things. But they did. In our church, we had a big banner that has our name on it. It's even in rainbow colors. Wow, we're brave. Walking down A1A, which is closed off, but they came and they listened to what they saw. And to walk in that parade as a church behind a marching band who we listened to, which was wonderful, of teenagers from high schools that were bussed in. They were listening. They didn't have a problem. They were glorifying everyone who was there, the diversity and embracing. They loved. It was wonderful to watch those young people who we can't get in church. But they were having church on A1A. They were. They embraced us. I dropped all my things and they picked them up. Oh, sir, here. It's Grandpa. Thank you very much. It was wonderful. But I was called to do something. And I had to think about how would that reflect on this church. It really did. I have a black clergy shirt with a white collar, and I was going to go in the collar to show that, you know, I'm an ordained minister of a mainstream Christian denomination, and we love everyone. We welcome everyone. But it was a tough decision. So I decided to take the sleeves off the shirt that you see on every priest and rip them off. They could see my tattoo. Ooh. What would they think? Also, what would they think? Because that's disrespectful to the church and what I grew up in. You don't do that. How dare you? And I'm struggling inside. Ooh, this could cause a ruckus in the church. You represent our church out in public. And how dare you do that and cause such a situation? No. I had to listen to my heart. And it told me what to do. And I followed that. And it came back in measure, as the scriptures tell us. It came back in measure. There were people, oh my heavens, there wasn't a little crowd. It was huge. All along the long walk, just 3-4 deep people there, embracing diversity, embracing this parade in Fort Lauderdale. The best part was when they would read the church banner. It had a rainbow design behind it. Wow! You could see many people like, is this real? You could. My favorite part, though, was the joy. There were people, heterosexual, everything there. People from Mars. I don't know where they're from. There were a couple. But they were embracing, and they loved what they saw and they witnessed out there. And Eddie and Gordon, they are the official king and queen of the Pride Parade. Every newspaper reporter comes and they tell me in the car that we were on channel 4, 6, 10, and whatever. I don't think we were on Fox News. Well, maybe. Because it's interesting. When they do an interview, they always put like the most outrageous people on. It's like, and that's fine. We embrace everybody. We love that. But why do they do that? The general public, when they're watching TV, can't see the people who are walking around in collar. The people walking around in everyday clothes. We're real. I mean, we're just like you. But that's a whole other sermon. It's a struggle. But it was wonderful to see that. And to see that change happening. That change. Amazing. But this weekend stuff for many of us. In seminary, there were a lot of people who were in the Methodist tradition attend my interdenominational seminary attended in Berkeley, California. So I got to know them. And I got to know their struggle. And it is a struggle deep inside. The dean of our seminary also married a same-sex relationship. She, after I left many years, became the first female lesbian bishop in the Methodist Church years ago. But a year ago, they had a general conference annual meeting, and they're like, no, this goes against our book of discipline, is what they call it? No, you're being brought up on charges. So the entire denomination has struggled, and last time they came close for them to be accepting and open and affirming, but it just didn't make it. This weekend is round 2. It's close again. Will they change and open their hearts to this word? So I invite us to pray. Pray that that happens. We have many people here who are from the Methodist tradition who painfully had to leave. Not because they were LGBT, but because their children were. And they wanted to come to a place where my child could get married and be celebrated in this house of the Lord. But it's painful to leave. It's like leaving your family behind. Why do I have to do that? Why is the world that way? So let's pray for that. Yesterday, Mark Taylor, Facebook messages me. I just happened to be on that in the midst of doing everything else. And I checked, and he says, when I left here after a meeting, I noticed on the corner there's the weekly or bi-weekly demonstration of judgment and condemning people. And he said, it really makes me sad to see that. On the corner of just right across from our church, to see this public display of condemnation and judgment. So I prayed about it and immediately said, how about an invitation for us? We've done it before about gun violence. To proclaim what Jesus says here about love. And it took about 2.3 seconds. He said, yes, I would love to coordinate that. Mark, would you mind coming and sharing with what you witnessed and how it makes you feel when you see that week after week after week? And I do, I drive by. Now, it's easy when you drive up to the light and the red light gets you to look over and you have to remind yourself, love your enemies. Well, not my enemies, but those who oppose my views. But they oppose my views because I see the damage that's done and the people that are hurting and crying out. So, Mark, if you would share. Yeah.
Yesterday when we left, on the corner, and I don't want this to be anything political, but they were saying build the wall, and that's fine. But it made me think that we need to be on the southwest corner saying that God is about love, about acceptance, and that our slogan in the United Church of Christ is simply, no matter who you are, where you are in life's journey, you are welcomed here. And I think it would do us a great justice for us to be on that corner. I don't know how often per month, but it's not to be a battle. We did that one time with the gun control. We had an 86-year-old man stop, got out of his car, and picked up the sign. First time he was ever involved in that type of community outreach. So I would like to see us do that. We have banners. We can create more banners. And so if you want a little bit of sun, that's a good place to get the sun, because that corner is a hot corner.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark, for bringing that to our attention. Because we are a church of social justice. When we had our discernment process a year ago that Mark brought us to, our conference minister, what came out of that was the focus of 3 areas: LGBT senior ministry for help and social justice, with 2 of them. So it's time Jesus says, gives us all these commandments, and they're not suggestions. Do good to those who hate you or persecute you. Bless those who curses you or persecute you. Pray for those who mistreat you. Give to everyone who asks. So I think that's a great calling. Thank you, Mark. We'll be announcing the date for that. But marching down the parade, I kept telling you, started shouting to the crowds, it's time, the church is coming out of the closet. I don't mean about being gay in a private way. It's about coming out of the closet to be real, who we are. In all ways. Thursday's church here, there were 75 people here having church on Thursday, the Snnday. To be who you are, the oppressed, that's what Jesus talks about. Came, they gathered together, this is their home. They worship the Lord here in this place every Thursday. It's wonderful to see. So it's not just a gay thing. But we are a church that we can be who we are. We can express. If you look through this book, 99.9 of this book and what you hear in churches celebrates heterosexuality. And that's fine. I do too. I love my parents. I celebrate them. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them. But the 0.1%, when we celebrate that, when we take this flag and we put it up, we have to be comfortable with that. I can't look out when I even say the word, and there are a couple people that roll their eyes and arch their eyebrows. It's like, I'm like, wow. Even here. But we need to be able to put this up and celebrate it and not be shy. We can't have homophobia in our own church. We can't. This is a place where all are welcome. And we're not shy about talking about who we are and celebrating it. Today we celebrate the anniversary of Jim's mom. 20th anniversary. Yes. It's like, we celebrate that. It's wonderful. The death of his mom. With these beautiful flowers. We celebrate people who are homeless, who are hungry. We celebrate people who just, all people come here and all people are welcome. Let's not just say we do, let's believe it. It's a sanctuary in this torn and hurting world. And we're doing a pretty good job, I would say. Because this church is growing. I read, there's so many articles that come out every week about church attendance and why it's declining and churches are growing. And I just always click on him. He says, here's the keys to successful church growth. You know, they have all their keys and their pointers they want you to go by. But this church is growing. There's a reason for that. Because I believe we're embracing Jesus' example for us. You see that every Thursday, you see that 7 days a week. Thank you, Jesus, for these instructions. So where do we go from here? listening. We keep being open to change. I mean, I saw a guitar out here playing a while ago during rehearsal. I thought, wow, what a blessing that would be. But I also thought, ooh, a guitar in church? Will there be anybody that goes, And there probably will be. I've had people talk to me about other churches that had guitars and like, but let's be open to change and celebrate it. I look forward to it. That's a blessing. It's a gift because you get to share your gift. Now we're back to the first reading about sharing your gift in that one line. Sharing your gift. And thank you for sharing your gift with bringing that here to this place so we can celebrate God through that gift. Wow. Let's just continue to do so. We should make pride every day for everyone. And I believe that's the message of this book.
Traditionally, I've done this as the children's moment or early in the service. It was interesting getting to hear the sermon and then getting a chance to speak. I was asked just to talk Black history, which as a music teacher means a whole bunch of different things. But this morning, I decided to focus on something that's a UCC story. It's a story of the Amistad, and it's a story of social justice and how we are part of a congregation of churches that believes in being first. In 1839, the Amistad traveled from Cuba to New York. It was supposed to be going from one side of Cuba to the other. But aboard this ship, there were 53 enslaved Africans from Sierra Leone who revolted. They had been illegally stolen at a time when transatlantic slave trade had been banned by both England and the United States. These slaves that were on the ship, they had revolted. They killed 2 of the crew members. And 2 of the crew members escaped, and they kept 2 because they were from Sierra Leone. That's not on the ocean. They know nothing about navigating the seas. So they had to have these people who had bought them kept aboard just to help them. They sailed during the night. The Africans didn't know how to navigate, so they left the slave owners in charge of sailing. But during the day, the Africans steered toward the sun. They eventually ended up now. They're sailing around Cuba, and they're trying to get to Africa. They ended up in Long Island. A little bit strange there. For those who don't know my background, I'm from Connecticut. My family has been part of Congregational Church in New Haven, Connecticut, as long as that church has existed. I have family members who are buried in the crypt of that church, and the new church was built on top of the cemetery, so we have a crypt. That church was left out of Steven Spielberg's movie in 1997. That is like the most important part of the UCC story to me, and Steven Spielberg missed that. In Connecticut, the Center Church on the Green got involved because the slaves were brought to New Haven Harbor. The congregational churches helped make this story to make headlines. They helped find lawyers. Yale was owned by the Congregational Church. It was founded by the Branford Congregational Church, which is the church I was actually baptized in. So Yale was involved in finding housing once the slaves were free. They found immediate housing, lawyers, translators. Former President John Quincy Adams is the one who eventually went on, and he did what was right, not what his personal beliefs were. He did not believe in abolishing slavery, but he did do what was right in upholding the Declaration of Independence. President Van Buren was then our president, and he decided the best thing to do would just be to send these people back to Cuba, where they would be convicted of being murderers and they would have been killed as the law there stood. Luckily, the abolitionists in the congregational churches in Connecticut stood up and said, this isn't right, and the case ended up with the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court mostly was made up of slave owners, so it is very interesting that they actually did decide that these Africans were free, they were never rightfully slaves, and that they should be returned to Africa. The ship was the property of Spain, and the ship itself was returned to Spain. Van Buren had promised the return of the Africans back to Sierra Leone. However, they thought they would just take that ship. Without a ship, they had no money or anything, any means of getting them across. President Harrison is now President of the United States, and the United States did not offer any means of assisting these now free people to get home to where they belonged. So the Farmington Congregational Church, where one of my friends growing up is currently the pastor, decided that they would take it upon themselves, this one little congregation, built housing for the men. There were only 4 women, and the 4 women were sent to private houses, one which is now known as the Porter House, became a very elite private girls' school in Connecticut, and it's still, the building itself still exists, and that's where one of the girls lived. The funds were raised by the Connecticut Congregational Churches, which grew to be part of the Connecticut UCC. They were the key in funding the return of 34 of the 53 slaves survived and were ended up to getting home. Only 31 of them survived the trip back home. Snnday is known as the leader of the group, and he did speak in court, and I think his words will resonate with our snowbirds. He said, "They say we are like dogs without any home, but if you will send us home, you will see whether we be dogs or not. We want to see no more snow. We know say this place no good, but we afraid of cold. Cold catch us all the time. We want to go very soon and go to no place but Sierra Leone." The slaves knew cold is bad, and they did not want to get sick from the cold again. So they did get 31 of them back home thanks to the UCC. The UCC has long been a factor for change and a part of Black history in America.
to serve and love